Blog Talk Radio.
Days to go in the election campaign, and Labor seems set to lose 12 seats at least. Despite a rise in the latest news poll in Labor's primary vote, strategists on both sides agree that Labor looks like losing 12 seats, mostly in New South Wales and Queensland, but also seats in Tasmania and possibly even South Australia. Essentially, the fundamentals haven't changed since Kevin Rudd called the election. Labor looks set to lose and hand Tony Abbott a majority in the Parliament, a safe, comfortable majority in the Parliament of around 20 seats. Of course, Liberal strategists are refusing to concede that they are on track to win, and Tony Abbott still talks about the race being neck and neck and a tough fight. But Labor MPs, people on the ground who are doing a seat-by-seat analysis, are conceding the tide is turning against Labor, and MPs, sitting MPs, are going to lose their seats. Already some Labor MPs are starting to think about how to handle opposition and the future of the Labor leadership. The Prime Minister today has tried to put some life into his campaign, but it's a campaign now directed at foreign policy and large visions, like the fast train and shifting defence from Sydney to Brisbane. This is a shift in the campaign which is hardly going to help the people fighting in Western Sydney to hold on to their seats. The Prime Minister's campaign has already shifted from an offensive to a defensive movement, and now he's trying to move into a much broader strength of his own diplomatic experience. But it doesn't seem to be shifting the reality that Labor faces a loss of at least 12 seats and government. Dennis Shanahan, Campaign HQ.
This is the News in 10 on the 27th of August 2013 on the international program from Bostonred. Bostonred here, good day and good evening depending on which time zones you're in. This morning we covered a news conference from the Syrian Foreign Minister Walid Muallem, and we'll have that in an edited version because we started a little late with the live broadcast, but nonetheless we'll have most of it as we go out. We'll start this broadcast with the Australian election. There is one coming up in September, and we covered the hung parliament the last time around in Australia, that the Labor Party pulled it off, and that was prior to the moving out of Mr. Rudd. Mr. Rudd is back. The former Prime Minister has retired from politics after losing her seat there. It was an unfortunate situation that happened in Australia, but we'll go to that election and some of the components that are happening there. We will start with the Haaretz newspaper, which is a military newspaper in the Israeli state. The Jewish support swings towards Labour Party in the Australian election. Community leaders abandoned ruling Liberal Party. Labour Party in a backlash. Now here's what is happening here. To get the parties straight there, the Liberal parties basically, in Australia is like the Lib Dems in the UK, a more conservative party, right of centre Social Democrats, whereas the Labour Party is a Labour Party, a much more progressive coalition. But we'll get to it here from Haaretz. The Jewish community in Australia has virtually abandoned support for the governing Labour Party. with the most privately hoping the conservative Liberal Party wins the federal election next weekend. The near consensus in favor of Tony Abbott to replace Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd called for elections, and I believe that was not the best move in the world. But nonetheless, after MPs come as the Liberal Party reportedly plans to upgrade relations with Jerusalem, make visa applications easier for Israelis, ban more terrorist groups, and stop financial support to any organization that supports the Boycott Israel campaign. There is one going on in Australia. According to a report in The Australian on Monday, an Abbott-led government would add Israel to the growing list of countries that can fast-track visas for short-term visits to Australia. The latest poll predicts the Liberal Party will win this in September 17th. Fairly close election, 53% to 47% for Labour. Of course, voting is mandatory in Australia, and Orthodox Jews have started to pre-poll because all Australian elections are held on Saturdays. If the polls are accurate, it would spell an end to a battle between the Foreign Minister Bob Carr and Jewish leaders who were infuriated in January when he joined the British Secretary Hagel in stating that all Israeli settlements are illegal under international law. He was correct on this. Carr, a founder of the New South Wales Parliamentary Friends of Israel group in the 70s, reignited Jewish anger last month in a speech outside of Australia's largest mosque. All settlements on Palestinian land are illegal under international law and should cease, he said. This is the position of Kevin Rudd, the position of the federal Labour government, and we don't make apology for it. It prompted fellow Labour lawmaker Michael Danby, to take out a full-page advertisement in last week's Australian Jewish News, reminding Carr of Labour's carefully calibrate, even-handed policy on peace. This Danby is one of the most vocal advocates for Israel. Foreign ministers have come and gone, but Australia and Australian Jewish communities' bond with Israel is solid as a Jerusalem stone. Nonetheless, unfortunately, it's evident that Labour broke with the tradition and attempted to use Israel as a political football. This is from Albert Danton. He's the founder of the Australian-Israeli-UK Leadership Forum, which first took Rudd to Israel years ago. Now, Rudd's a very interesting situation there. He claims some Jewish leaders felt betrayed by the Labour Party under Julia Gillard, who he described as an unwavering friend of Israel and was dramatically deposed as Prime Minister in June. Julia Gillard was the first female Prime Minister of Australia. In our opinion, she was a very progressive person. Not the most articulate person at times, but at times she was very articulate. Rudd, back to him, first stint as Prime Minister from 2007 to 2010. He led a successful campaign for Australia to win a temporary seat on the UN Security Council, sacrificing support for Israel in a bid to woo Arab votes. Gillard wanted to oppose the vote to upgrade the status of Palestine at the UN last year, but thought by campaign reports led by Carr, who preferred to abstain. The Jewish vote in Australia is neither uniform nor influential given its relatively small size. Most Jews generally vote primarily on economic and social issues. But the Labour Party's strong a Liberal Party, coupled with its unapologetic support for Israel, brings them in. Abbott, a London native who once enrolled at a Catholic seminary before abandoning plans for the peacehood, has wooed Jewish voters since his first speech soon after being elected leader of the Liberal Party in 2009. Dr. Ron Weiser, he's a former president of the Zionist Federation of Australia, told Haaretz, it's not uncritical support that we seek. It is support of a friend who understands that Israel is a moral entity that behaves morally, and with the understanding is more likely in the first instance to assume that Israel is correct rather than incorrect. A lot of petty moralizing in that statement. Some Jewish leaders fear a liberal government could open a door to Holocaust deniers by amending the Racial Discrimination Act. Abbott has moved the possibility of diluting Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act, which makes it illegal to commit an act that offends, insults, humiliates, or intimidates a number of personal groups because of their race, color, or national or ethnic origins. Is precisely that section that was cited by a federal judge, Catherine Branson, in 2002, when she ruled that Dr. Frederick Tobin must stop publishing Holocaust denial material on the internet in a landmark case brought by the Jewish community. The Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus, another Jewish MP, along with Danby and Labour government, argues in open letter to Abbott recently that his preference to limit Section 18C is to acts of intimidation and harassment is inconsistent with support for the London Declaration of Combating Anti-Semitism, as they call it. Section 18C is precisely the kind of legislation, protection against anti-Semitism and discrimination, that the London Declaration called upon its signatories to enact. As Mr. Dreyfus said, the best outcome for Australian Jewish communities would be a narrow victory for the Liberals, added one Jewish leader. So in other words, they get some things and some things they don't. Be very leery from a Jewish standpoint of the the conservative liberals and some of their Holocaust denier friends, is basically what this article says. And back to Haaretz, that means Australia would revert to its historical position regarding Israel, but will not be able to ram through the badly thought out amendment to the Racial Discrimination Act. Well, it's quite possible that Abbott's government would, and it would be a very interesting situation there if this in effect does happen. So we'll be on now to the Foreign Minister of Syria, Walid and his news conference today in the Syrian capital Damascus. Nothing on the scene has changed. The Americans and their partners in crime are ready to strike at any moment. Of course, we knew that. They have the targets, they have their tools in place, basically cruise missiles, some long-range type bombers. They would not even have to go into Syrian airspace. And according to a White House briefing there from Carney, he's back from the circus, that regime change is not one of their options. Now, I understand that degrading of the air forces, primarily of the regime in Syria, would, as they see it, level the playing field for various gangs that are receiving billions of dollars in arms through Turkey, training from various paramilitaries associated with the French, the British, the American CIA, heads up, as we call it here, on surveillance from the NSA, their British counterparts, etc. So this is quote-unquote a family affair, a terrorist campaign on the Syrian people. This is Bostonred for the news in 10 on the 27th day of August 2013. Good day. We'll talk to you on our regular program, our political program, Bostonred, on Wednesday morning.
In this matter, to be involved in this matter. But anyone who follow up what's happening. We have been for 2.5 years moving from the calamities coming from the Jordanian border, and despite of that, we didn't act against Jordan in any way because we are care about the people of Jordan. They said we want to get Patriot rockets. We laughed. Against who? We haven't got in our minds any attacks launched against Jordan. Lately they promoted the idea to train the Jordanian army because there is a possibility of a war launched against them. I would say to the brothers in Jordan, don't make the other extort your position as a neighboring country to Syria. The interest of Jordan is to be with Syria, because the security of Jordan is connected with security of Syria. It may be said that at meeting of the chief of staff there, why in this particular timing? It could have been done earlier. That's what I want to get you acquainted with from the facts which happened during the last few days.
انت ما بتحتاج لميكروفون بس مع ذلك معلش
ما في ميكروفون وطالبين مني وقف.
لا توقف مشان التصوير.
I should stand up. Don't stand up. Just say what you have on the through the microphone.
مع الوزير وليد المعلم قلت انه جرى اتصال مع وزير
His Excellency Foreign Minister.
القطيعة استمرت سنوات وكان الاتصال وديا.
After a long disruption of communication between you and the U.S. Foreign Minister, but today a Russian-American meeting was stopped in Lahore. Did that mean that the American has settled the matter from the military point of view, and that the Russian? And where is the Iranian in this equation? This is four questions in one question.
عم تحكي حضرتك عم تقول حوار ودي رغم انها مكالمة 10 دقائق فقط. شكرا.
You are talking about amicable talk with the U.S. Foreign Minister. First of all, with regard to the cancellation of the meeting between the Russian and American, we were from the beginning cast doubts about the relation of Americans to have a meeting. We will always say to our Russian friends, we trust in you, but we don't trust in USA. USA doesn't want a political solution through Geneva, for one simple reason, that Israel doesn't want a political solution. Israel wants the continuation of violence, and also as well as USA. So all these movements to postpone or to remove or show that USA doesn't want a political solution. And that's our evaluation from the very beginning. With regard to the Russian position, I would like to remind you that the Syrian-Russian relations are historic relations, go back to many decades. and still continues
التنسيق على المستوى
up till
السياسي
today.
يكاد يكون شبه يومي
Coordination on the political front
عبر
is nearly a daily exercise
عبر لقاءات مع الدبلوماسيين المقيمين.
through telephone conversation and
ثانيا
meeting with diplomats.
عماد
Secondly,
قواتنا المسلحة يعتمد على العقود التي نبرمها
the strength of our armed forces
سابقا الاتحاد السوفيتي
depend on the agreement we made with
هناك التزام
Soviet Union in the past and now the Russian.
تنفيذ هذه العقود.
There is a commitment between the two parties
إذن
to implement these contracts,
روسيا هي
agreements.
جزء من صمودنا.
Therefore, Russia is part of our survival.
اقتصادية جيدة وهناك مشاريع عديدة.
Thirdly, our economic relations.
أصدقاء الروس في
There
سوريا.
are many projects carried out by our
لا
friends
غبار
in Syria.
على العلاقات السورية الروسية.
So there is no dust upon our relations with Russia.
ماذا تتوقع من وزير خارجية أن يقول في هذه المناسبة؟
What do you expect from the
هل لدينا
foreign minister
مصلحة أن
to say in this occasion? I didn't hear the question in the first place, but so they move their wars into our lands.
علاقاتنا مع روسيا الاتحادية
But
علاقات
I
راسية
assure
في
you,
مختلف المجالات.
our relation with
أن روسيا
Russia
والصين
is very
لأول
stable and
مرة
strong.
في تاريخهما
You know that
يتصرفون
China and
بتوقيت
Russia
المجلس.
are the first two
منعوا
who
النوايا
act
الغربية
by veto.
من تكرار ما جرى
They
في ليبيا.
They stopped the Western intentions to intervene.
فيما يتعلق بإيران لدينا تنسيق
With
كامل
regard
مع
to Iran,
الأخوة في طهران
we have full coordination
في مختلف
with our friends in Tehran in all different fields.
كمان.
What else?
أصلا ما في
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question.
هذا الدفاع مشترك. هذا ترويج إعلامي. لكن أنا أقول
We haven't got a common defense policy with Iran.
في طهران يعرفون أن ما يجري في
Our friends
سوريا
in Tehran know that
وما يجري في
that
العراق
whatever happened in Syria
هو تنفيذ
and what
لسياسة
happened in Iraq
مرسومة من عام
is
2009
an implementation of a policy
للوصول إلى طهران.
laid down since 2009
ولذلك
to reach
هم
طهران.
ونحن في خندق واحد.
and therefore we both together in one trench are in one trench.
سيادة الوزير وفاء شبروني الإخبارية السورية. حضرتك تحدثت عن ضربة عسكرية ستكون محتمل أن تكون أمريكية لسوريا ولكنك لم تتحدث عن ماهية الرد
You talk about a possible
أن الأستاذ خلف المفتاح معاون وزير
a Russian strike on Syria,
على هذه
an American strike on Syria. But what you didn't talk about, what is your reaction to this?
بعيدا عن الدبلوماسية وخاصة أنك مطمئن بالروس
Is it the strategy far away from diplomacy,
من أن أعلق
especially with regard to the Russian and the Iranian?
على ما قاله السيد معاون؟ لا. أولا لم أجزم
First of all,
أن هناك ضربة بالأساس.
I didn't confirm
قلت ربما تكون
that there will be a strike in the first place. I said there's a possibility of a psychological
لا فرق بين
warfare
المواطن بين صاروخ كروز
and maybe a
وبين
strike
قذيفة هاون تقع في حيه.
for citizen. No difference between a cruise missile or a mortar attack. But we analyze only here. In case
أمامنا خيار.
there is a strike,
إما أن
we have two
نستسلم
options.
أو أن
whether
ندافع
to
عن
surrender
أنفسنا بالوسائل المتاحة.
or to
وهذا
defend
هو الخيار الأفضل.
by our available means.
أنا لا أريد أن
And that is
أبعد من
the
ذلك.
preferable option. I don't want to talk anything further than that.
سندافع عن أنفسنا بالوسائل المتاحة.
I will say we will defend ourselves by the available means to us. To stop, new line.
لا.
خلال معروف أخبار التلفزيون العربي السوري. معالي الوزير يقولون أن هدف التصعيد هو خلق التوازن على الأرض. السؤال: هل يكون خلق التوازن من الخارج؟
They are saying that this is an escalation to establish balance on the ground.
في حال حدث
They say
اعتداء على سوريا
that specific strikes.
ستنتهي مساعي الحل السياسي. أيضا سؤال:
If there is an aggression in Syria,
عشان لحق الباقي إذا سمحت.
will the political...
أولا إذا كان هدف الضربة تحقيق توازن.
I would like to say first,
أنا أقول
if this try to create a balance, I would say
بأن هناك
you have to be proud that the Syrian, there is a range of countries, France, USA, Britain. The financer is Arabic, of course. You have to be proud that all these people try to do something because you have survived all the time yourself without surrendering. So to create a balance is a fictional matter, not available at all. But with regard to political things, when we talk about strike, then every matter has its own discussion.
السيد الرئيس قال في أحد لقاءاته الصحفية أن
the president said in one of his press conferences that any attack on Syria, it will kindle the Gulf oil. I can't remember that the president said that. I don't remember that at all. In the area, you mean in the area? But I would like to ask the Arab League now, on regard to the strike against Syria. Syria is one of the parties in the Arab League. Maybe it had been suspended for some reasons, for motives by Qatar or otherwise, but I would appreciate what you're saying. I am astonished that you talk about the Arab League here. I'm surprised. But I'm not going to answer your question. I don't see it there.
جايين
معالي الوزير هشام ونوس تلسور أمريكا اللاتينية. معاليكم لجنة التحقيق الأممية لا زالت موجودة في سوريا
The investigation committee
14 يوما كما اتفق. متى سيتم الإعلان عن نتائج التحقيقات الجارية على الرغم من أننا نعرف بأن الولايات
they will announce the results or the outcome of the inspector committee work? Because they didn't wait even for the outcome to come, but they started to think about acting. The report made by the inspector committee, we are waiting and we'll see. But so that the USA and to take action before even the results are out. He said once before that the committee, this inspector committee didn't decide who launched these chemical weapons. But in the Security Council said they are the ones who decided to appoint this committee and give them the terms of reference to do that. So this is very strange. We are living in an age near to be the community of the jungle. There is an international law and they break it. And they talk about Security Council meetings and they are breaching the law.
معالي الوزير رانيا الزنون من الإخبارية السورية، بس بما يخص موضوع الأردن دائما تتحدث الخارجية السورية عن علاقات طيبة مع الأردن، علما أن الدور الأردني بات واضح بتمويل وتدريب المسلحين وإرسالهم إلى سوريا. اليوم بحق بما يخص هذا الموضوع، وخاصة تحدثت التقارير عن أن الأردن ستكون ساحة أخرى لشن الحرب على سوريا بعد تركيا، كيف سيقيم هذا الموضوع من قبلكم؟ وبس سؤال إذا بتسمح لي ثاني فيما يخص لجنة التحقيق وتعقيب على السؤال، إذا كانت لن تحدد الطرف أو من استخدم السلاح الكيماوي فما الفائدة من بقائها على الأراضي السورية؟
يعني بقاء لجنة التحقيق على الأرض هم ليسوا محققين جنائيين، هم علماء، ولذلك رأيهم مطلوب. نحن لا توجد لدينا تجربة سابقة في التعامل مع مثل هذه اللجان، وأقول لك بصراحة نستفيد منهم كثيرا. فيما يتعلق بدور الأردن، أنا أشرت بدور الأردن ولا أريد أن أطيل، بل قلت أن التزام الأردن بعدم استخدام أراضيه في العدوان على سوريا هذا شيء طبيعي، لأن لا فائدة للأردن من ضرب سوريا. خليني انتقل للصف الخلفي.
مع الوزير نقل عن سيادتك بإحدى اللقاءات أنه أشرت سيادتك أنه لم تصل أسلحة نوعية كما وعدت الولايات المتحدة إلى المجموعات المسلحة في سوريا. هل يمكن قياس هذا الموضوع، وهل الذي يدل على إلى أن لا تنفذ وعدها؟
I can't see the Reuters. There's no Reuters. Stop.
تأخذ تاريخ قولي، لأن